I'm poor, right? I'm in debt, right? But this feeling of how people are treating me, it keeps me grounded. There's really famous people I've helped. I don't talk about them because I don't want credit.
Who are you?
I'm a barista. People don't know this other stuff I do. I've helped over 100 strangers move in New York. I've helped over 100 people get jobs, doing cover letter work, resume work for free, and I'll just never see them again. I've had giant opportunities that I turned down because I knew it would be a corruption of some principle. That's terrible for business. That's not a good business model.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, when they figure you out, when we're done, you'll get a TED Talk, you'll get a book deal. But he did it in less than 6 months. And I was like, what is happening right now? Most people are living in a transactional reality, and it's so hardwired, brainwashed into our psyches that they're not aware how much it permeates their entire lives. I'm 42, I'm still fucking nothing, but I have so much hope. I have this delusion that I might be an 85-year-old man dying on my deathbed right now. I saw this giant Buddha-like entity, and it told me it's the Buddha of the multiverse, and then it told me I'm choosing you to help spread the Dharma. I'm like, what? Give it to someone else.
Who are you?
I am a content creator and an alchemist, which to me is applied spirituality. It's actually applying it into everyday reality, not just thinking about it or enjoying it, and teaching that as simply as I can, and deconstructing major things to people so that just people get it. And
yeah, what does that mean for you to apply spirituality practically? What does that look like tangibly? Is that meditating?
Meditating can be a thing, but it's like how people go to Burning Man for a week and then they deal with radical non-transactionalism for a week and they feel really blissed out and beautiful, and then they leave that place and then they have to wait online for 5 more minutes for coffee and they're so pissed. And to me, they don't understand what's going on. Anything you're learning at a place like that, you should be able to integrate it into your everyday reality at all, ideally all the time, and see the infinite depth and magic of every moment. And I want to deconstruct and dispel things so that I can teach stuff to anybody on the streets of the city in New York, anyone I meet on the streets, and just be able to just break it down. They don't understand what's going on. Anything you're learning at a place like that, you should be able to integrate it into your everyday reality at all, ideally all the time, and see the infinite depth and magic of every moment. And I want to deconstruct and dispel things so that I can teach stuff to anybody on the streets of the city in New York, anyone I meet on the streets, and just be able to just break it down. As white people and stuff, I'm not, that's whatever that is, but this should be stuff that everyone can tap into. It's for all of us, and that's sort of part of the mission. But gatherings, they tend to be upper class white people and stuff. I'm not, that's whatever that is, but this should be stuff that everyone can tap into. It's for all of us, and that's sort of part of the mission.
Where does that mission originate for you?
It was because I was agnostic and I had a lot of despair because I thought everything was transactional. Everyone was doing everything transactionally, and it horrified me growing up because I felt like it was a lie of the dream we're told as children that the world is a beautiful place, and I was like, well, it's really not, and wow, everything is transactional. Is this really true? I like the idea of Santa Claus, right? And it caused me so much despair that people were so selfish and petty that I didn't want to live in that world at all anymore, right? So it was a life and death thing for me. So I studied existentialism as a philosophy when I was 18, and I realized at some point that I might be responsible for my reality and I have the total power to change it, and I'm fully responsible to change it, right? So I was like, all right, if I don't like transactionalism, I will have to commit to radical acts of kindness for nothing, radical non-transactionalism, right? Where I just help strangers and never see them again, just so that now I live in a world where that is even possible. And I would argue until you start doing that, you don't live in that world yet, And the more you do it, it's I've helped over 100 strangers move in New York. I've helped over 100 people get jobs, doing cover letter work, resume work for free, and I'll just like never see them again. But you start to see through a lot. You start to see through the structures of society, people. You see people's like unconscious minds and how they function, because most people are living in a transactional reality, and it's so hardwired and brainwashed into our psyches that they're not aware how much it permeates their entire lives. And when you start doing that, committing to some radical non-transactionalism, like just a little bit, you know, but the more you do it, the more it's like integrated, the more you can't even keep track of how many times you've done it, the more you start to see through the veil. That is my thesis or whatever.
Yeah, I'm wondering, could you kind of, you touch on it a little bit, and I know we all probably know what the word transactional means, but could you walk us through like what does it mean to live in a world of like transactionalism versus like radical non-transactionalism, like, and especially in a world where we have systems and structures set up around capitalism, monetary exchange, all of these different things, like what does that actually look like? I think to your point, yeah, we have a lot of people who would say that everything on a baseline is still fundamentally transactional, even if we can sort of, elucidate beyond that on some level.
Yeah, but I mean, people risk their lives to help other people. That's not necessarily transactional. And I think a lot of the systems were based on a world of scarcity. A lot of conflict is based on that. But most, if not all, of the holy prophets that weren't con artists, they were teaching this. They were teaching that if we are all one, and that's sort of like one of the main teachings of what spirituality is, like we're all one, right? Then helping a stranger for nothing should make complete sense. That should be the most sensible thing there is, and yet it's so insensible, right? And I think we've been brainwashed into believing that since the Cold War, when capitalism was competing with communism as a moral value instead of just a tool, because capitalism, it's a great tool. I like it as a tool, but once it's a moral value and selfishness becomes like the secret moral value of our culture, I think that really jump-started during the Reagan era. And it's been with us for most of our lives that we don't remember what it was like before that. And I think it's a lie that we want to be selfish. I think there's a lot of data and research suggesting that you actually love like connecting, and connection is really the point of it all. And connection doesn't involve transactionalism necessarily. Like it's like making art that connects to people. You might not see most of the people that are moved by that art, but when they connect to a piece of art, they realize they're not alone, that they are part of some greater whole. And that's the beauty of art.
So for you, it sounds like fundamentally it's about connection.
Connection. And I think that at the moment before you die, there's an endogenous DMT release, and this illusion of space-time begins to break down. And every act of kindness that you've ever experienced in your life is all happening at once. And you realize like the point of it all was love. And you're like, oh my God, that's what it was, right? And then you die, right? And everyone's going to understand this in the end. It's just the sooner you get it, the better. And the more you can play around with this stage of reality. But I also think space-time is an illusion based on some new scientific research that's been coming out.
Yeah. Do you want to say more about that?
I guess the cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman, he did research with a big research team, and they're trying to figure out what is the likelihood that we are seeing reality as it is based on the survival of the fittest and theory of evolution stuff. And the computer models kept spitting out that we're seeing 0% of reality, not like 70%, 80%. It kept saying 0 again and again. And it's counterintuitive even to everyone involved. They can't fully comprehend it, but they think what's happening is like we are seeing this filter of space and time. We have to exist within it in order to like eat, shit, and fuck. And then, because if we saw the truth of everything, that everything might all be happening at once, we would kind of be in shock, catatonic, and then die. Like we cannot see the truth because our bodies would not function in this reality, and we would just, so we're given massive amounts of filters to function on a biological level, but otherwise it's might not be the whole truth.
I guess I guess the question I would have with that is that that can sound, I don't know, cool and profound and interesting, but like to your point with like even like the applied spirituality,
Yeah.
like what do you actually do with that, right? Besides the
Yeah. So, people can feel down, like disempowered or whatever, or you can decide to step into becoming like the hero you wish you had as a child, that you could have looked up to as a child. Like you just be it now, and you just function in that reality now for your child self decades ago that really could have used like a older sibling or, a mentor that could have really told them that things are okay. Or if you want to call upon ancestral love, you be future ancestral love now. You send out ancestral love into the future, 200 years into the future, by manifesting that energy right now. So it's sort of like, because the past and the future are mostly memories and ideas. They're not
Mm,
like the only thing that's happening is the present moment. But if you realize like, and yet, we worry so much about time. But if you realize it might be an illusion, then you can shift the meaning of the past and the future so that the past is really about, instead of suffering, how does it become a wisdom teaching for yourself? And the future is something you manifest now by living in action now towards that future, instead of thinking
mm,
about it and doing nothing about it, or just hoping. You move towards it right now, and that becomes your future.
mm,
um and I also think it explains like ghosts and reincarnation too, because I think I might be a reincarnated person, several
mm,
lives, blah blah blah, but I've come to believe that it's also individuals piercing through the illusion of space-time, living
mhm,
the same energy signature, like simultaneously. Like we're all doing the same thing simultaneously,
mm.
but we're actually different people too, at the same time that we're the same person.
Yeah, kind of like different fractals of the same experience in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Mm,
And this is all stuff like I guess I had a miraculous vision event, so that's why I have faith in it, but I don't need anyone to believe in any of this. That's another thing, like,
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. Are you open to sharing about like that event?
Yeah, in like 2019, I was in a deep state of meditation, and I had this, and I since I started meditating a long time ago, I was able to, at some point, I'll see visuals, I'll see things in the darkness, and they become very vivid and strong, and I would get better and better at that. But in 2019, it got really crazy, where I saw this giant Buddha-like entity, and it told me it's the Buddha of the multiverse. It was this giant cosmic Buddha, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. I thought, wow, I'm very creative, because I write story worlds, I write a lot of screenplays and stuff. So I'm like, okay, this is some fun idea. And then it told me like, every time you almost died, you did die on another Earth. Every time you almost lost everything you did on another Earth, there are versions of you doing better than you, worse than you, in countless worlds where you don't exist, and you're taking for granted that you're not supposed to be here, and this is your Earth. I'm like, what? And it showed me like I did almost die many times and miraculously survive. And it said like, do you think that was an accident? You think this is all by accident? Like, I'm choosing you to help spread the Dharma. And I'm like, and initially I was like, I'm not Buddhist. So I wasn't even Buddhist, right? And I'm like, I'm not even Buddhist. I don't believe in any of this. Give it to someone else. I told this being like, give this energy or whatever, give it to someone else. And then it was like, that's why it's you, right? I was like, oh, come on, give me a break. And then it showed me different teachers that failed, that tapped into unity consciousness. And I also said like, I'm an atheist. This doesn't make sense.
Mm,
And it said like, oh yeah, you're an atheist that committed to radical non-transactionalism, and you've helped hundreds of people for free because that's very atheist of you. I'm like, yeah, atheists can do that. I'm an existentialist. I was like having this back and forth thing,
yeah.
and I kept answering the questions correctly because I didn't want it. Um, showed other teachers that tapped into unity consciousness, and I was asked like, how did they fail? So I explained how they failed, and then it asked me, how will I spread the Dharma beyond religion? Because religion failed, right? And I was like, oh, I'll use fiction. I'll write TV and film projects that teach the Dharma, because fiction is a lie that people willingly take in. and knowing it's a lie, and you don't have to trick anyone, make anyone believe in anything, and then you can spread teachings beyond religion. And this being was like, awesome, that's great. And I was in a very like samadhi state, feeling really good about everything, very blissful. And then and it said like, do you want to go back? And I was like, yeah, kind of. I like it here. And it's like, oh yeah, but why do you want to go back? I was like, because if I stayed here, then I would leave my spouse behind, and she suffered so much, and that's not cool. And then the being was like, that's the right answer. I just kept answering correctly, but it was like trick questions all the time. And then I got out of it, right?
Yeah.
And everything's very synchronistic and loving, and I'm like showing people love and all this stuff. But then 3 months later, I went to Korea for the second time in my life ever. I've only been to Korea for 1 month and 1 month when I was 12 and 38 or something. It was 2019, but and in Korea, I was also like acting like Mary Poppins all over Korea, just like showing everyone the beauty of life, making conservatives see the world differently, but effectively without offending anyone. And it was wild, right? But then I go to sleep and I'm driven to a temple, and I wake up. And before I'd been driven to palaces, I never felt good about that, because palaces, they had a lot of like slavery involved, a lot of exploitation. But when I woke up at the temple, I thought it was a palace, but I felt really good. And I was like, where are we? And they're like, oh, we're at this famous temple, Buddhist temple. I was like, oh, okay. And I just felt like a lot of energy in my body, like this big spike of adrenaline maybe, right? And I go up and I look at one statue of a Buddha. It's the Amitabha, whatever. He's very famous Buddha. I was like, okay, cool. And I go into another pagoda and I see a Buddha holding its finger like this. And I instantly know that was the Buddha in the vision. I was like, what the fuck is this, right? And I look at the plaque. It says Vairochana Buddha, cosmic Buddha of wisdom. And I'm like, what? And I Google it. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it says, the first sutra that mentions the Vairochana says like, I sit upon a throne with 1,000 petals, and each petal has 100 million worlds upon it, and each world has its own Sakyamuni Buddha. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on, right? And then I'm like, wait, is this a multiverse Buddha? And the internet's saying like how that's not currently how it's seen in Buddhist scholarship, but it makes sense. Like it is a kind of a logical conclusion. And then I realized like, oh shit, that thing was real. Because I don't care if it's real or not. Because I have certain rules about visions and all this stuff. It's like, as long as I don't need anyone to believe in it, I don't harm anyone, and I don't use it for just personal gain, I'm fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with those delusions. But if you start to need people to believe in it, you hurt people, blah, 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 then it's problematic. So, and I was like, what's up?
Just a real quick, how did you come to those three rules? 'Cause I was gonna ask like what had you believe in it? And like those sound like really key, great principles, but like, yeah, I'm curious how you arrived at that.
I think I've always been fascinated by cults and religious teachers and prophets, even when I was an atheist. And I always wonder like what made people go bad, you know? And I've also I've been on the spectrum my whole life, and even like socializing and all that is all masking for me, because I so did not understand people. And I think that's why it really bothered me that people were transactional and they acted like they weren't, right? Oh shit, what was the point? I lost my train of thought.
But you're gonna talk about like how you came to those three principles around like not harm.
Yeah, so I just developed principles over time that were like rules of thumb that really helped me. And then later I encapsulated those into those three principles. But like one of the early principles I came as an existentialist, just as like a philosophy person, was there's a fine line between love and obsession. They look the same, they feel the same, they even taste the same, but everyone confuses the two. And the difference is love is about freedom and obsession is about control. Love is about the freedom to be with you and not with you. Obsession is when you have to have them. They're not the same, but everyone confuses the two, right? And when you know that deeply, you can reconfigure the true nature of all your relationships and understand what they're really about.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, many people don't even know what love is, because many people actually only know that obsession definition of love. That's like one of the fundamental rules I developed just for my own self or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think of when you say love versus obsession. It makes me think of Anakin Skywalker in the Star Wars series, right? Like that was always
Yeah.
my perception of those, movies. It's like, oh, it's like falling in love with Padme, and that's what causes all these problems. But it's like, well, I think he confuses, like to your point, he confuses that love with obsession rather than like loving her enough to let her go, right?
Yeah.
It's like he has to control and protect and do all this stuff that ends up kind of leading him down a different path.
This 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 realization happened when I was in front of an elevator on 12th Street. I just
Hmm.
broken up with the first woman I fell in love with, okay? And it like hits me really hard. I'm like, "Oh, because I love her, I have to leave her alone and not bother her ever about this because that's what love is." It was so intense, this realization. That's where that's where I came from, you know? And yeah, and then I realized like everyone is born and you start in the womb and you're connected to everything. Then you're ripped out of the womb and that separation is so intense that you want connection again. And then your parents give you some connection, but as you get older, it's conditional. You get
Hmm.
attention for being really good or really bad or really bad. And that's why kids are bad because they want
Yeah.
connection, right?
Hmm.
But rarely for nothing at all, which is what the experience of being in the womb was just connection for no reason, right?
Hmm.
And I think unconditional presence is ultimately what people want deep down.
Yeah.
And we don't provide that for each other when it's actually really simple and easy, you know?
Hmm. So, I mean, for you with, these three different principles and like the love versus obsession, you connected that earlier to, I think, being either diagnosed or undiagnosed for a period of time with like autism and ADHD. Is that correct?
For
Um,
my entire life, I got diagnosed very late in life.
okay, cool. So what
Yeah.
was, I guess, like for the audience, I guess, like how what was that experience like for you growing up?
Well, my first moment of consciousness, like unbroken memories, and I don't know if this is true, but I've talked to a lot of people about this, where it seems like everyone's first memories are something traumatic.
Hmm.
And I don't know if it's actually like a truth, but it seems to be like that when I talk to people about their first memory. It's something kind of
Interesting.
traumatic. But I woke up in the hospital with tubes in my arms, puking blood in a yellow bin, and that was my first memory. But
Wow.
this was baseline reality, so I didn't know I was suffering. I was just like, this is reality, right? And then my dad came by and he was like, "Hey, you want anything? I'll get you anything you want." And that like scared me. I was like 3 years old. I was like, "What? What the fuck? Why are you talking to me like that?" You know? And he was so desperate to get me anything, and I was like, Ghostbuster walkie-talkies, you know? And then he goes out. He's an immigrant. He doesn't know what he's doing. So he comes back with regular walkie-talkies. And I'm like, then I lied to my dad. I'm like, "Thanks, Dad. This is exactly what I want." And it wasn't what I wanted, but I knew I had to lie to him to give him comfort. And I didn't understand what was going on. But this freaked me out because I realized like they the adults don't know what's going on. Like I think most children understand this about their parents in their 20s, you know?
Mm. Yeah.
But I figured this out when I was 3 and it was, you know, it was very scary and I used to get a lot of anxiety attacks. But I suffer really quietly by myself and I would like look for a radio or TV to like listen to kind of get out of it. But I didn't know that was weird. I also was lactose intolerant my whole life, and I didn't realize I was 13 because I would have horrible cramps
Hmm.
every day. I thought that was the condition of life. I thought it was suffering all the time. I thought that was baseline reality. I didn't know that's you cannot suffer. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think a lot of pain can kind of make you, it makes you think differently a little. But because I was hyper aware of things, and then I learned like not to be scared of death when I was 6 from listening to one of Aesop's fables about a king that's told that his son will be killed by a lion, and he makes his son like imprisons his son in a room, never
Hmm.
lets him go outside. And then a painting is installed, and there's a lion in the painting, and the son is so upset at his fate that he punches the painting and he trips, pricks his hand on like a thorn. It gets infected and he gets sepsis and he dies. And
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, the fear of death is a waste of like it wastes your living, you know? So
Hmm.
I told all the kids when I was 6, and then they got me on the jungle gym. They're trying to pull me down and put the fear of death in me, and I was really scared. But I remember also thinking like, that's so weird that I'm like scared of dying, even though I know like conceptually I shouldn't be scared of dying. I was like, that is fascinating. And I was kind of like, I kind of asked for this. Um, I didn't know it, but everyone thought I was very smart. I found out later when I talked to people from my past. They're like, yeah, we all called you this and that. I'm like, but I thought I was normal. I thought I was normal. I
Hmm.
didn't know. Yeah. And I thought I was lazy, which is an ADHD thing. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious for you, like getting that diagnosis later in life, like what did that do for you by, I guess, having that realization around that?
So I went to get treated for depression, and the therapist was like, I think you actually have ADHD and
Hmm.
it's something else. So then I got all these tests done, and that's what happened. And then once I learned that, you realize there's a whole grieving period because like, it's all this woulda, coulda, shoulda stuff. But also, you weren't lazy. You find out, holy shit, every time you messed up, you couldn't do this and that, and you felt like you were horrible. You weren't. You weren't horrible. You had a different type of disability.
Hmm.
And it comes with some, cool powers, I guess, but generally it makes you feel very isolated and you don't understand people. But you weren't actually a failure. That's the beauty of being diagnosed. You're like, oh shit. And actually, I don't know. I don't know if like being diagnosed very young, because sometimes I see young people get medicated very young. And
Hmm.
so because I was never medicated, I had to develop all these techniques to hold on to memory and stuff. And I would use a visual memory system to visualize lists of memories, and I'd snap my fingers to my ears to bring up the memories
Hmm.
that I had to memorize really fast, large amounts of data. Then I found out that's called the mind palace. Like
Yeah,
I would develop shit that I didn't know was a thing. Like I would create
yeah.
theories of stuff that I didn't know existed yet.
Hmm.
I developed a meditation that I found out was a famous ancient one that I didn't know, which I bring up, yeah, in the book I wrote or whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you
Yeah.
want to talk about like what that meditation is called, and like I guess just for the audience who have written a book that you're giving away for free, or they can buy it and support you, and it's called Eat Evil for Breakfast. And you want to talk
Eat
about like
evil for
why
breakfast.
that, I guess why that title and how the meditation comes into that?
So I would go and see all these meditation teachers and people out there in the spiritual community telling you like, oh yeah, visualize like a ball of light and energy and pure love and take it in and exhale what doesn't serve you and blah blah blah, right? And I'm like, you're all still shallow materialists. Like what is going on? Is this helping anyone? So and then I felt like it makes you resist the horrors, right? And I find great, like I don't like the horrors, but I find great beauty in people surviving horrors, in people existing in horror and continuing to thrive, like exist. There is a great beauty in that I never want to ever look away from. So
Hmm.
out of like spite, I was like, fuck them. I'm going to breathe in all the horror and the suffering on purpose and exhale love. And I'm going to do the reverse.
Hmm.
So I thought I made that up. And then I found out a few months later, this is mostly a technique called Tonglen in Tibetan Buddhism. I was told by some more scholarly Buddhists that I'm not doing it purely enough in a purer way, but
Hmm.
I don't care. I will humor them, but I don't really care. But to me, what happens is when you do that, instead of resisting horror and evil and darkness, you consume it, you take it in and you transmute it. And then it makes you an engine of change so that, and then when you keep doing this breath work, when you meditate, you're kind of reprogramming your unconscious mind so that whenever you face adversity, horror, whatever, instead of like resisting, fighting, you take it in and you respond with love and you figure out a way to respond with love. Because when you are angry or upset and you're reactive, you tend to get tunnel vision and your option sets are vastly reduced. But when you are relaxed and thinking with love, you come up with way more outside the box solutions that can oftentimes be revolutionary and kind of create results that no one could predict.
Yeah.
And I think that's because our our unconscious minds are functioning way faster than our conscious minds. And you know this, like if you make a decision, you're like, oh, my intuition told me this, blah, blah, blah. But if you go back to that memory very deeply, you realize like, wait a minute, I knew this, I knew this, I knew this, I knew you knew all these data points. Your conscious mind wasn't even processing, your body was taking it in. And then you make a decision afterwards. And everyone talks about intuition, and they say, oh, my intuition, I'm like, no, I think there's actually two things going on. It's either instinct or intuition. That's how I've been framing it. It's a polarity between instinct and intuition. And instinct is a decision made for safety, for the self and separation. Intuition is a decision made for the unity of us if we're all the same. That's the difference. Because not all intuition, because I hear everyone calling everything intuition, but I'm like, sometimes that's just your fear instinct kicking in, not
Yeah.
your intuition, yeah, which is more transcendent.
How
I
do
don't
you tell the difference between the two? Like for yourself, is it qualitative difference? Is it something you like feel? Is it something that you just learn over time? Like how do you find out the difference for yourself?
I think I think because the fear will exist the entire. I mean, this is just one metric. It's like the fear will
Sure.
exist the entire time you're making these series of choices, because bravery requires fear. Without fear, there is no brave. Like you need bravery. You need fear to be brave, right? So if you're just doing everything you can to get away from that feeling of fear, then maybe that's more instinct, right?
Hmm.
And if you're acting with fear still and you're calmly acting the thing that you think makes most sense, maybe that's intuition. Maybe you're being brave enough to handle something in a different way. And I don't know, I've done this in like, so in the subway system, like people will go crazy, right? So other people freak out. And then, this guy was killed a few years back. White dude that was in the Navy or some Marine or something. He like choked a kid to death because he was scared. Okay. But I've been in that situation like a dozen times, and
Hmm.
I have a couple strategies. So
Like where
one
somebody was
is
choking you, or like what when you
no,
say
no,
like
no.
you.
So basically, it's the person's erratic on the train, and
Mm.
then this guy overreacted out of fear and just choked him out, did a blood choke, but didn't let go, so he
Oh,
died. And it's like a thin little kid. He wasn't even like he was like in his 20s. Then he wasn't even like a real threat, but
yeah,
people freak out whenever someone's freaking out. But because the truth is, anyone freaking out on the train, they're terrified. That's an expression of fear. That's not. But when you act in fear, it creates more anger, and
right.
it's a feedback loop. It just escalates, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I do two things. I put my clothes together. I get close, and I stand up, act like I don't know what's happening, and I get closer and closer to the situation, acting like I don't know what's happening, right? Because I'm playing an undercover cop. Because undercover cops are terrible actors, right? So this works very often. So because it's confusing, because they're expecting the same response from everyone. You're scared of me. You're getting away from me. They don't know what's going on when someone's getting closer and closer, like they're not scared. It like throws everything off, and it will make the person just calm down.
Hmm.
Another strategy is I'll just straight up start meditating on the train really hard. I'll like put my hand like this and I'll go, all is love. And I'm saying all is love. Love is all,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And I do this while the guy's screaming, right? Keep my eyes closed too, right? So he can come over, punch me, whatever he wants, right? And I just keep doing it as if I don't know what's going on. I will eventually hear the person stop screaming or whatever. And I wait for my train. I just keep doing it until my station appears. And then station hits. I open my eyes. Usually the person's just sitting there quietly. I just
Hmm.
walk away. And because just like reacting with fear, which is the most obvious reaction, makes everything get worse. Whereas one time I was at a cafe and this guy comes in, he's like, yo, I want some water. Give me some water, And everyone's like freaked out. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So like I pour some water, I go up to him like, hey, listen, man, I'm giving you this water, right? But I'm giving you this water because I want to give you this water. Do you know what I'm saying? But like whatever else is going on, that's not happening here. Because here, I just want to give you this water. And the
Yeah.
guy was like, oh man, it's like, I'm sorry, man. Peace, peace, love, man. I'm sorry. It's like he drank the water, he calmed down and he left. And my friends were like, my coworkers were like, what? How did you do that? What just happened? I'm like, he's not mad at us. Like, think about it.
Yeah,
Something happened, you know? He's super upset. He's coming in here and he's trying to cause more suffering because he's suffering. I'm just bypassing, I'm just refusing, you know? I'm refusing the premise and I'm creating a new premise. And I think if your reality sphere is strong enough, it will shift everyone around you. And this could just be game theory. This might not be magic at all, right?
yeah,
Um, but it works. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, there's a couple of things that like come to my mind. It's funny that you mentioned that because I've seen this kind of example fairly recently, just in my feed. There was this example of this photographer who would go and take photographs of gorillas, and what he would do, it was like, oh, he pretends to be a gorilla, but I thought he was gonna like wear an outfit or something, right? But no, it's literally like he's in their vicinity and he's like chomping on
Mm,
a tree branch or something, and the gorilla just spots him and like full on charges at him, and the guy just like doesn't flinch, like just looks at the gorilla and keeps like chomping, and the gorilla just stops like a few inches away from him and then like backs up because he like doesn't know how to respond.
mm.
Thing that's not like afraid of him, right? Yeah.
No, I get that because like that is like how we used to exist as human beings when we didn't have civilization, when we didn't have culture, when we didn't have language. We had to use our instinctual mind to watch out for all dangers, you know. And but we don't live in that world anymore. You don't kill the animal you eat, right? We're so
Yeah.
far removed from that that we have the privilege and luxury of thinking in love instead of, you know, just instinctually. Like it is
Yeah.
what makes us human that we can even do that.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's like a you know a question that with this kind of conversation comes up often. You know, I think with you can look at some like the wars that are going on, and there can be this often this tension within I think the spiritual community where people can be like, oh, well, this is like a really nice thing, and it works in a civilized world where other people are fairly kind to you and mostly nonviolent and all of those kinds of things. But once you go into the real world where not everybody is existing in that place where, there are people who will harm you or harm your family or harm other people, how do how do you live in that place from sort of even like a geopolitical sense, right? Because there are people who, if they had the opportunity, would destroy you or blow you up or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. I mean, because like Korea has a lot of misogyny and alcoholism. They're like the largest gender pay gap of any developed nation on earth. Number one alcoholics. Russia's like a distant second. I have a Korean origin or whatever, but I think what's happening is it's the trauma of the Civil War actually that the kind and honest people that existed were wiped away during that time because you had to be like a cunning, bribing, like selfish person to survive. And they never really talked about it or healed that trauma. And that's why we still see remnants of it. I mean, and I think it's best for us to also focus our own reality spheres. Like everyone's waiting for other people to do the right thing all the time. Like, why don't they do the right? Don't they? I'm like, maybe it starts with us. Like, hold people accountable in your own reality sphere. Fight for your principles in your own reality sphere. Live in kindness and love, and it will resonate. If everyone did that, it would shift the entire consciousness. Um, I have also, I saved 2 years ago. I didn't know what I was walking into, but I ended up saving like a sex worker's life who was having a full blown psychotic episode, and she didn't know what was happening. And I risked my life for like 2 days to get her out and help her escape. And I just wept afterwards. But the whole time I was like focused. Or I had a friend, he got his face smashed in by a fire extinguisher. I had to take him to the hospital. That was like the worst night of my life, even though I almost died. That doesn't bother me, right?
Yeah.
But having my friend almost killed by strangers, I was like focused. I was like dealing with it. And that night, I remember that night, it was in Bushwick. And I looked out into the night sky with my friend in the cab. And I told the universe when I was an atheist, I was like, yo, universe, like you can like break my legs and like take my shit and do whatever you want. Just like, if you can just like less of me taking friends to hospitals, like do less of that. and I will be your champion of suffering, right? I made this deal, right? And death can do that too. It makes you kind of not
Yeah.
take things for granted. But then, like 6 years later, I had a brand new bike. It was stolen, right? I was like, oh shit. And then next week, I had a new bike, and that was stolen. And I was like, damn, I got another bike stolen. And a friend of mine was extremely disturbed by my reaction. He's like, why are you so calm about this? I was like, oh, trauma. You know, it was. I made a promise. I'm supposed to like be cool with this, and yeah, because I guess that was so traumatic. Everything else is like nothing. You know, it's like, well, when people are freaking out, I'm like, wait, is anyone dying? No
Yeah.
one's dying. Okay, let's just deal with this, everyone. Like, just calm down. You know. But I put my life at risk multiple times, and my mother hates it.
I'm
She doesn't
sure.
like that. She hates it. She's like, because we knew some sort of evangelical who was super Christian, and apparently he got some documents out of North Korea, and he had a gun on him. And I told my mom the gun wasn't loaded, right? She's like, "How did you know?" I was like, "I know, I know." And she's like, "Don't do that. Please don't do stuff like that." I was like, "I won't." I was like, "I promise, I won't ridiculously put my life in danger."
Mm.
But also, like the horrors in the world, right? Cancel your Netflix, cancel some subscription, redirect that money into a recurring payment to like Doctors Without Borders. Okay. Like, you think you can't do anything, you probably could do something, right? So from the inside personal reality sphere, just live it now, be the hero you wish you had. From the outside, where you can't really connect as well, do what you can, like, and you can easily cancel some subscription, redirect the funds to a cause that you really believe in that really needs that money. And if we all did this, there'd be a lot more money to help a lot more people. Or we can get some lawyers to fight back against the changing legislation, stuff like that. Just like it can be done. Just people are waiting for others. They don't realize how much power they have.
Mm.
And if we work together, how much power we can have collectively. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love that idea of, I guess, both looking at like how you're showing up within your sphere and then like finding that small way that you can contribute to the global things that are happening around us. And I guess to your point, it's like it's finding the way that you can contribute. You know, I think one of the things that we deal with, I was thinking about this with my grandma. She talks about like the reason that like, you know, what changed sort of about like World War II and then with you know, the Vietnam War in particular is that like we went from sort of this war being at a distance to like being having the war on our televisions in our home all the time, right? And now I feel like with our phones it's even more so where we carry all of the world's baggage that's going on all the time in our pocket with us wherever we go. And so we're sort of exposed to the amount of complex and varied types of suffering that are all existing, also not knowing how much of whatever is told to us through these spheres is true, is a headline to drive us into fear or whatever it
Mhm.
is. All of this uh, various forms of noise. Some of it may be signal, but we're not sure which one. And so I'm curious for you, like, what do you do to maintain that sense of equilibrium of like being able to focus in your sphere and like focus on the things that you can control and give to versus being overwhelmed by the amount of suffering in the world.
I think a lot, like maybe this is not true, but I think a lot of it is that people are literally not doing anything. Like they're just resharing links, okay? And that gives you the feeling of you did something and you did nothing because you're just paddling balls in an echo chamber, right? It's not really doing anything. Activism requires sacrifice. So sacrificing some luxury that can help the cause, then you're doing something. I think literally most of these people that are suffering, they actually are doing nothing. And that's part of the problem. And so just sacrificing a little bit of your time, your energy, your money, it it doesn't make you feel as helpless. Like you did something. You're not doing nothing. I think for most people, they're actually doing nothing. Link sharing is almost nothing because it's it gives you the false sense of doing something. And actually sacrificing is doing something. And there's like a peace to that. There's a certain peace to it. And helping strangers and creating kindness and doing, radical acts of kindness, getting nothing back. You live in a world where that exists now, right? And like I said earlier, if you've never done it, you don't live in that world. You live in a world where people are selfish and you're waiting for someone to do the right thing. So you're like a helpless citizen in a world of like fucking evil villains, But they're just people too that are like the horrible leaders in our world. They're also people that don't understand what love is. And if we can have a consciousness shift and collectively pool our energies towards creating change and even though, yeah, we're seeing all the horrors of war and it was hidden, the hidden horrors led to alcoholism and abusive fathers that beat the shit out of their kids, because they didn't know how to process their emotions. And having it all out in the open maybe makes us think, wait, should there be war at all? These are all choices made by Ivy League educated men getting into rooms and deciding, okay, it's time to mass murder a group of people. I'm like, that means the world is broken. Like,
Yeah.
what if that doesn't make any sense? I mean, that's the reason the surrealists even exist, was a response to World War One, because all this logic and shit led to World War One, and these young men were so horrified that they're like, "Oh, we can't believe anything these people are saying in society. We have to create a new world from our unconscious minds to develop new theories because what we thought was right was totally wrong." And maybe seeing everything openly will wake us up into realizing war is totally wrong. Like but we're trained from a young age to like war. When we watch like cartoons where people are fighting, even Marvel superheroes are always punching and like it's always violence, that wins the day, which is probably the military industrial complex, involved in propagandizing children. But that's why I like Miyazaki films, because in Miyazaki there's huge stakes, lots of people, but often the film resolves with almost nothing happening, or like no one actually getting killed. You realizing there's a reason behind everyone, even the people you think are evil, they have these really strong reasons for it. And you don't notice it, but that is how Miyazaki films, they kind of are sometimes anticlimactic.
Yeah.
But no one remembers because you're so swept into this story. But he's speaking some deeper truth that we can actually live like this. Like it can happen. And the news is focused on the bad stuff, so we never see the good stuff that's going on. But we have to keep fighting against these horrors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious for you, like at this function in your age, it sounds like you've obviously been through so much. You've had these visions. I think you haven't really talked about it on this one, but I know you've done a lot of like basically free life coaching and helped a lot of people grow in all of these
Mm.
different ways. Like, what is it that has like continued to drive you, and what like drives you or motivates you today? Is there like a vision of the world that you kind of have, or is it more of that in the moment non-transactionalism that moves you forward?
I think it was coaching it's more like maybe I'm a natural existentialist or something. So my mother used to tell me I can achieve anything I apply myself to. And I was like, oh, great. So I was like, oh, I can do anything I want. Right.
Mm,
Um, and then I was teaching that to other people in New York, And then I visited my mom when I was 26, and she was saying how she's depressed because she didn't make enough money for me and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I wasted my life. I was like, no, you can't say that, because I helped tons of people like achieve their dreams because you told me how we can do anything we apply ourselves to. And my mom was like, no, not them, you, because you have my blood. And I'm like, what? Because I totally misunderstood what she was saying. I didn't know she meant genetically, right? So I realized though, like, if you can build someone's vision enough of like where they want to get to or some goal and create the vision so deeply, all they have to do is step into it, and it's miraculous to witness. And I think that's why it's been such a joy to do it for free. Also, to do it for free, it's like my goal as a coach, if I coaching you is like, I talk to you once, I never have to talk to you again, because I want you to know you're the power or whatever. But that's terrible for business. That's not a good business model.
yeah.
And like this one guy, I helped him and he's telling me his story, what he wants to do. I'm like, man, when they figure you out, when we're done, you'll get a TED talk, you'll get a book deal. And but he did it in like less than 6 months. And I was like, what is happening right now? And then he's a major world known LGBT, like he's he's the only openly gay monk in his sect in Japan.
Wow.
Yeah. But now he's in like product ads and all this stuff. And he's on TV. He has a best-selling book and all this shit. But the mission was every time he speaks, a couple of queer kids might not kill themselves in Japan. Like, that's what we're doing. Like, no matter how crazy this gets, we have one mission. We're going to make kids want to continue living. That's what we're doing, you know? And because that's the real mission, I think the universe helped him get wildly successful. And there's other people I'm not even gonna, there's like really famous people I've helped that I don't talk about them much because I don't need to. I don't want credit. They did all the work, you know?
Yeah.
I could tell you off, you know, over
Yeah.
off the thing, but, and it's just natural. It's easy. And all I'm doing is I'm listening to your story and I'm just like reconfiguring how your story works, spitting it back to you. And then showing you how it's all been leading to just stepping right into it, you know, where everything's been leading to, whatever. It's all storytelling. I was a literature major, right? And I just got so good at it. But it's just a joy witnessing. And then when people are helped for free like that and it changes their lives, it literally feels like a miracle because it feels like an actual miracle. And that is priceless. It's priceless. Yeah.
And for you, does that, like, was that, I'll say that technique, that coaching, that like developing somebody's vision, was that something you just found innately from like that desire that your mom gave you? Or was that something that you like learned from other people? Like, how did you come to that?
I think from that and just reading so many stories and realizing like it's all the same story, you know, and you like, it begins with someone going after what they want because they think what they want will give them glory and power.
Yeah.
And then they realize they're wrong. And what they need is actually connection. And then they fight for that. And then they go home or they die. Right.
Yeah.
And that's like everyone's story.
Mm.
And by reading so many stories and seeing how outcomes can change so quickly, I just apply it to anyone. And because I think we're here to play. Like, we've been raised in a world of scarcity where everything is about finite games. There's this theory about infinite and finite games that was developed by this guy, Robert Karst or something. And the idea is that most people play finite games where there's winners and losers and people are placed in power positions, right? And we're raised to believe that's the world. There's something called infinite games where the rules of play modify and change at will all the time so that there's never any true winner or loser. And it goes infinitely and it never ends. And everyone gets stronger together, right? And I think this might be matriarchal power structure compared to patriarchal power structures, right? And we all know this because we all did this when we were at the playground. Every time you go to a playground, you meet a bunch of kids you don't know, instantly break the ice, telling each other's names, and you start playing games instantly. And you keep changing the rules of play so that you can keep playing indefinitely. Because if anyone's winning too much or losing too much, you change the game. Everyone starts changing the game. So everyone fucking knew this when they were kids. It's just, it's beaten out of us in academia and all this other shit and told to us that this is not real, but it was real. We all had access to it. I think it's a lie that that wasn't real. And I'm trying to make all the adults realize there are no adults in the room at all. Like, there are no adults. We just need to come back to that infinite play that we all know, that we all intuitively know that we were born with, that we were, brainwashed out of. Like, I think that's actually the natural state.
And I guess in your mind, when we get to that natural state or in that natural state, like what is the byproduct of that?
People not fearing for like starving to death, you know, not living out of fear of starving to death all the time. And us working together and sharing the abundance that exists. Cause like technically there's enough for everyone. Technically, right? We
Right.
could undo climate change. We could do this. It's just the will is not there. And too many people that don't think we can do it, but technically we can, right?
Right.
And if we can shift the consciousness to go more towards an infinite game, which I think is the whole point of life anyway, because we're all gonna die, right? So like,
Right.
what was the point? Was it to amass as much? It doesn't make any sense. It's like, it's nonsense. It's really to play infinitely, all get stronger together and then die. It's like, that's really the point of it. And unfortunately, yeah, it takes death for people to realize this shit.
Yeah. Do you feel like, I guess with the infinite game, the finite game, where you were talking about like kind of the patriarchal structure versus a matriarchal structure, like these different kinds of things, like I guess a question that comes up for me is like, do we end up creating like a new false binary though by kind of segmenting as like one versus the other, right? Like it's like, oh, the matriarchal structure, this other version of it is better than the patriarchal one. Versus, do we just end up putting that other part of ourselves into a shadow in a sense and like not like integrate the full, or is there like a way that actually like integrates all of those ideas sort of simultaneously somehow?
I think matriarchal structures can consume patriarchal structures and still utilize certain tools of patriarchal structures within it, whereas patriarchal structures cannot do matriarchal shit at all. It's like people say the opposite of love is hate, right? But I don't think that's true. I think the opposite of hate is obsession, because like obsession, you have it and you don't have it and you dehumanize it and you hate it. The opposite of love, I think, is nothing, because I think and love consumes hate. It consumes. So like,
Hmm.
I actually think matriarchal systems can consume whatever benefit there is in like allowing people to compete, but like it's not a big deal if you win or not, right? Like that can be added in different ways. Like, but I think one consumes the other, and it's like, but whereas patriarchy cannot, it doesn't, it hates matriarchy. And yeah, I think, I don't know. I don't know if anyone's made this connection about this. Actually, I was gonna make a video about it, but yeah, I just have this feeling like, because even in the playground with the infinite, you play a game where someone's winning too much, then you change the game, right?
Hmm.
Right? That's how it's infinite. Whereas like if you stick to the one game and one person keeps winning, one person keeps losing, then it's one system.
Hmm.
Whereas, but that system can be consumed by the infinite game system. And that's why I think matriarchy consumes patriarchy. It's not necessarily oppositional thing.
Right. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see it as more like, and when you say consume, what I hear is not so much like it. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's not so much like it eats it, but it's like it can contain it within.
Absorbs it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Not like, no, not consumption, like not capitalist. I mean, like, yeah, it absorbs it and can use it in the ways where it works. It's like you have emotions that like ruin your life, like rage or depression, but they're feelings that are there to protect you. They exist to kind of protect you in the end. And if you can like kind of separate from the feeling and be like, hey, rage, listen, I learned a lot. Let me handle this. I think I got this. Like, I appreciate you were there for me because you thought I was defenseless as a kid. So you came out there to help me. But I've learned a lot, and thank you. And I'm sorry that you had to do that, right? Because we
Yeah.
never talk to our feelings like this. And sometimes our feelings need to actually be acknowledged, thanked, told that they're loved, and then you apologize to them for having to do that work. And then they just kind of, they just relax, they take a nap. But then when you need rage, you're like, hey, time to step up right now. I need you for a second,
Yeah.
Like it becomes more of a precision tool rather than, just a battering ram everywhere.
Yeah. How do you see that? Like, I guess like applying practically. Like, do you have an example of when you've been able to like turn on your rage intentionally in a way that was helpful versus just destructive?
Yeah, there was a guy who was like talking all like angry at this. It was like a father and a son,
Hmm.
and they were like getting really scared, and the father was getting scared, and it was just so horrible. And the guy's just like yelling and like talking like he's gonna kill them, and then he's like, "Yeah, you know what I mean, right?" And he like hits me. And
Hmm.
then I'm like, I have a big ass bike chain on me, and I'm like, I get up slowly, I take the chain off, I start wrapping it around my arm. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, nothing. It's just, why'd you hit me? I don't understand why you hit me. He's like, I just No, I'm just trying to talk to you. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, that's it? That's all you're doing? It's like, yeah. I was like, okay, all right. Because I was like ready to fight. But I was but I was using it calmly, ready to use ultimate violence or whatever. And then the guy settled down, and then I waited till the father and son left the train. And then we moved to the next car or whatever. But it's like pulling out that killer instinct if you have to, and I can use my to protect another person. It's usually that kind of situation where I have to protect someone, so I have to appear like a monster, like a scary monster that's like quiet, you know? But I never usually, it generally doesn't actually go all the way or whatever. And I never, I mean, I've been attacked randomly in New York multiple times because I'm Asian. That's a thing that's been happening for forever, actually.
Hmm.
So sometimes I'll overreact whenever I'm getting attacked, and because I think in that moment it will prevent that. I will potentially traumatize that person so that they will think twice before they attack another Asian person,
Hmm.
right? So like I'm trying to reprogram their brain to not think it's so easy to just go after Asian people. And that's why I'm actually overreacting, but I'm not actually that upset.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to break their ideas of reality in that moment.
Well, and I know that that's like been a thing, especially that I've at least have become aware of more so over the last like several years. And like, I'm curious, like just from your own perspective, like why do you think that Asians seem to be kind of uniquely targeted in that way?
I call it trickle down racism. So we're the beloved stepchild of white folks, right? Like we are the Asians are the minorities. Like, well, look at the Asians. What's wrong with all of you? We're used against other people of color to justify and rationalize racism. Even affirmative action was undone using Asians. It was a bunch of white conservative groups with tons of money that found Chinese kids in Harvard to undo affirmative action. And I remember a lot of people of color were upset at the Asians, but it was like we keep getting used by white folks to separate us and then a lot of Asians want to be kind of white, right?
Hmm.
And as a result, we're like Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat, you know, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Because we're the beloved minority of white people,
Hmm.
and everyone else getting shit on. It's trickling down, and then it ends up on us. But we have to not take it personally when that happens and realize this is a wider system. It's actually coming from way on top. And it's just being distorted as it comes down. Yeah, this is like a touchy subject people don't like talking about, but
No, no,
I
I'm glad.
examined this before Trump was elected. I made a video about this in
Hmm.
6 months before Trump was elected, because even liberals would tell me like, "Well, why would anyone attack an Asian?" I'm like, I don't care. You don't know why. Like I'm telling you, it's happening. You know, it's not even like regardless of what you. So I had to examine like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's why, because we're the beloved minority that white people use to attack other minorities.
Hmm. Wow.
And yeah,
Yeah. That's, I'm curious. Like, I know it's like in a lot of your work, you talk a lot about, totally makes sense. Like a lot of around race and a lot of these like kind of dismantling different power structures, and you've obviously helped a lot of people in the queer community as well. And I'm curious, when you kind of are looking at all of these various different, I guess, structures in place, like what do you see as the I don't know how to say this, like the healthiest way at dismantling these things and having a new way of existing together that doesn't require, hopefully, like just mountains of violence in a different way.
so I've done experiments where I'll go into like Trump country and I'll change minds. I'll actually do it. And
Hmm.
part of the strategy is I don't yell at people. I don't think that works. I don't bring up just facts and figures, right? I connect on 100 things we definitely agree on first. Like
Hmm.
we agree making organic soil at home is better than store bought. We agree visiting grandma on Tuesdays is the right thing to do. Like find so many things you definitely agree on, because we all agree on a lot of stuff too, right?
Hmm.
And then I'll talk about issues, but through stories of my lived experience that relate to an issue. And they don't just deny me, they listen to me. Because at that point, I've humanized myself so hard that they can't dehumanize me anymore, right? And they have to listen to the story, right? Because they've seen my humanity. Then I can tell them stories that are related to issues that break down and deconstruct the hate they believe in.
Mm.
And they will realize for the first time, oh my God, I've been lied to, or whatever. And I mean, it's not easy. I'm
No.
not acting like it's easy, but I've done it because I'm clever enough to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a privilege. And I'm in a male body, right? So
Yeah.
that also makes it a little easier to be listened to. I know this, right? I'm not even acting like this is not something everyone can do, but
Hmm.
to me, that's the best strategy of connecting. It's like you just humanize to so beyond what anyone can ever do to you. It's like if someone
Yeah.
has a gun on you, right? You gotta look because it's happened to me already, right?
Hmm.
You gotta look them in the eyes. Like people like are scared they don't look. It's like then you're more likely to get shot. But when you keep looking them in the eyes, they really might not shoot you because just seeing your eyes is like saying, "Hey, I'm alive. Don't fucking kill me," you know? And if you're sane, it's like really hard to kill someone looking you straight in the eye. That's why they blindfold people before execution. That's why they turn around and shit. Because if you're looking them right in the eyes, it's like way too hard. But that's why this remote war is so easy for people because they're not looking at the eyes of the people they're killing. Because dehumanization is the key to keeping this violence going. So the opposite is maybe the solution.
And I'm curious with you because I think that's, it's something that I've similar thing to always believe, especially like being born and raised as a Christian who was like, had to, I saw this piece on like the WWJD bracelets as like that a lot, what led to a lot of Christians eventually kind of leaving the church, ironically, right? By asking like, what
Mm-hmm.
would Jesus do? And that there's the
Mm-hmm.
idea of loving your enemy. And you talk around like the ideas of like not making sure that you're continually allowing people to see your humanity and seeing the humanity in others. But I think for a lot of people, it can be very, very, very challenging when someone is dehumanizing you, right? And it can be very easy to then dehumanize that other polarity, that other side that is, belittling you, that is doing that. So I'm curious, like how obviously you found a way to like navigate through that and like find that compassion, but like I guess I don't know what is your I hate the word trick, but like how do you do that? And then like or like what is your guidance to other people to find that? Because I agree with you. Like I think that's the only way ultimately out of that. But like to your point, that's a lot easier said than done. And like both you and I have different privileges that other people don't necessarily have.
I think what people don't comprehend a lot of times is like what you're witnessing is fear. Like whenever someone's attacking you for who you are and stuff like that, what you're seeing is fear. It's not like comfortable, happy people have no desire to attack people. Like it doesn't even compute, right? They have to be uncomfortable and scared to go after you like that. That is like so that's how I start understanding them, like okay, they're scared and they're not comfortable with their lives. Something's off with their lives. I don't know. That's like a way, and then also to think how we were all babies, right?
Yeah.
We were all babies. Remember that we were all kids. If we were all 8 years old, we would actually get along at the playground. Actually, that was actually what would happen. You literally would not be yelling at each other if you're 8 years old at a playground. Same people, right? And what else? So like realize that. Try to see the child in them. Why they're scared. Why are they upset at their own lives? And a lot of this is everyone's acting like a puppet. This is all helping a few people at the top. This is all in the interest of a few powerful people trying to amass more power. They're tricking populations with propaganda. So, just try not to take it personally. I think that's another thing. Because, like, the thing with trickle down, when I get attacked just because I'm Asian, it feels very personal, of course, right?
Yeah.
But I have to remind myself this is not personal. This is part of a larger system, right? So if that shit's happening, you gotta try not to take it personally. And like even when the Black Lives Matter thing started, I would see white kids that never cared caring harder than minorities. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now? It was
Mm.
very weird. Like, and then they burned down police stations in Washington. I was like, wow, if that was like black people, they would have all been killed, right? Only white kids could get away with burning police stations when they're upset more upset than we were about what's going on. And it's like
Hmm.
there was a lot of virtue signaling going on too, right? On the
Yeah.
left, people that never cared, like people, the same liberal white kids, where if I said the phrase white people, they all got uncomfortable, right? But today they all say white people, right?
Yeah.
Since George Floyd, that just happened, So I also realized both sides, like it's not just them. They're acting in fear, but liberals might be acting in guilt and shame for being maybe complicit, right? And that's also what's fueling that kind of energy too. On the other side is deep-seated shame that, yeah, they're complicit.
Yeah. I'm curious because I feel like often, like almost like with the left side example, I feel like sometimes that can be almost a more challenging thing to speak to the virtue signaling, speak to the people who are how to say it, like overcorrecting towards a particular ideology, right? And then get lost in the ideology rather than like the actual ethos of that and like doing what they can. I'm curious, like how do you speak to people within your sphere who might be like leaning in that direction? Like how do you find how to like break through that miasma? Because a lot of times it can become like this thing of like, well, if I'm not doing this, like I'm now being a bad person, right? Or like if you're challenging that idea, then like you're a bad person. So how do you penetrate that? Because I find that almost be more challenging than the opposite sometimes. So when somebody's overtly, clearly problematic, it's almost an easier thing to challenge or confront in a sense.
Well, I don't believe most like virtue signaling liberals,
Hmm.
because they don't sacrifice. They're just yelling and repeating shit, and they don't make actual, like, if you do sacrifice, I will listen to you way more. If you do have original ideas and thoughts, which I rarely hear original, it's just regurgitation after regurgitation. So like, but to me, it's usually guilt and shame, and then if they're selfish and they're materialistic, and they're also part of the system, right? So I don't even take them seriously unless they actually are sacrificing. Then I will listen. But I very rarely meet like true liberals that actually sacrifice,
Hmm.
that actually live fully what that means. It's rare. And usually the people I meet that are like that, they're not just yelling at everyone and virtue signaling and shaming everyone. Yeah, the ones that actually live it, they don't do that all day. It doesn't, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it
It's,
makes me
yeah.
think about what you said earlier, where it's like when you find a way to contribute to it meaningfully, it's like it doesn't consume you, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
become this like thing you have to like identify with, or like you need to yell and scream because you're trying. It's almost like you're a helpless child trying to find some way of controlling your world. But like if you actually
Yeah.
find a way that you can take action, it kind of alleviates that stress essentially.
It's like the guy screaming on the train. It's actually
Yeah.
just like feeling helpless. It's helplessness. It's not actually just an aggressive, violent person, right?
Right.
And yeah, that thing with the liberals, it's a feeling of helplessness coming out all. But I think if you actually, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the majority of people that label themselves liberal don't sacrifice anything. But if they did, it would relieve a lot of that tension, because then they'd be transmuting that helplessness into something that's useful and doing something, and that they're sacrificing. So they feel like something's happening. You don't feel as helpless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I'm
think it's, yeah, I don't know.
no, no. I
I
think
could be wrong. I could be wrong, but like my sense is that
that's me.
most of them don't do anything. Like they just talk in echo chambers and they don't sacrifice shit. And like they want their triple shot iced whatever at their, and they hate waiting and they're rude to service people, and they're just they're the same contributors to the systems that keep people in power. Like,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah. I'm curious for you. You mentioned I think Doctors Without Borders at the
mm.
beginning of this, but are there any other like particular causes that you particularly believe in or that you believe in contributing to? Because I know at least for myself, I can feel like even overwhelmed by like who do I even trust to give money to or to contribute to, with all these different black boxes that things that exist. But I'm curious for you what you contribute to.
Well, I think I named them because they're known to be very good. There's rated, all the different charities, and I name it because it's not terribly specific, so I can just name drop them to anybody.
Yeah.
And then I think we can also contribute our services, our service skills, volunteer at a soup kitchen once a week, and just actually interact with people that really suffer. Okay, because like, or you're just like in your milieu of middle class people just talking shit, and like it's like no, just go actually find people that are really or like on the street I'll see a homeless guy. He's like, can I get? I was like, I don't have money, but I got a credit card. You want to do a shopping spree? And I'm like, I'm not rich though. And they're like, all right, these are the rules. And then we run around, get food, and then I'll bring it to their spot like every now and then. And it's like fun because I'm like playing a game, you know? Cause even if I'm poor, because I'm poor, right? Even if I'm poor, like I'm not suffering like that, you know? And
Mm.
like do what you can to actually help a person near you, nearby.
Yeah.
That can also help. And if you don't think you have time, you're probably scrolling for 6 hours a day. You might have some time, you know. I think we do have the time. There's a lot of ways though. Like get creative about it. Like, yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. You know, one topic I wanted to kind of circle back around to with you, with especially with the non-transactionalism, and you even talked about like kind of liking capitalism as a tool, but like, yeah, you know, if you were living in a completely like non-transactional society, and that's you've given so much away seemingly for free, like how do you do that and still survive, provide for yourself, build something for your family and your immediate loved ones and that whole process? I'm curious what you think about that.
I think there's different ways to go about it. I have a plan. So I write TV and film projects. I have a lot of scripts. I think they're actually really entertaining and compelling and really unique, right? So I have like 30 projects ready to go. And if I make half of them, they might give me like $1 billion because some writer just got $1 billion signing deal recently. Before that was 800 million was a top, whatever, right?
Mm.
Anyway, the goal of the projects though is to be so entertaining that it just spreads around the world. And it's like the main character is like usually a woman of color or something. And every story is the same theme of how an individual can change everything through a series of simple choices, right?
Mm.
But it's so entertaining to watch it. And then kids around the world be like, wait, I can do anything? I'm like, do anything, right? And right, so then on top of that, my spouse and I were going to cap our income at 1 million annually forever. So if they give us $1 billion, 400 million, 498 million goes into a fund,
Mm.
and I have a guy ready to make smart contracts. We're going to give out shares of the fund to all our collaborators, our makeup artists, gaffers, electricians, catering, based on time worked, and they will actually make more money than me per project, right? With that core team. And then we're going to give out tons of grant money to everyone. And then I want to show that I can take like 10 million and turn to 100, 10 to 100 with these projects by having all these people that are really like into it and technically be more profitable than Disney, but share the profits in a way that no one is used to. Because I don't believe in the auteur theory in filmmaking anyway. I think it's a collaborative art. And
Mm.
I want to express the truth of, because technically I'm the owner of the property,
Right.
but I don't think that way. And I want to shame everyone not shame, that's not I want to create a new model that is very successful, that is very compelling. And instead of like waiting for a person to do it, like I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to try to be that crazy person that made $1 billion to give it all away, and that we can all do this more sustainably. And then the other people, they can choose the jobs they want. They don't have to like work on shitty jobs, and then they can, have wealth for their families, all this stuff. But yeah, it's like a collectivist model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm out of curiosity, like what have you done like for yourself to make money up until now? Like have you done like those kind of writing projects and that's how you were making some money before? Or like were you just off of the grace of God or like what were you doing?
So well, I meet other teachers and healers and blah, blah, blah. And they ask me like, who's your teacher? What did you read? How do you know this and that? I'm like, oh, 80% of everything I learned is from being a barista for 25 years.
Hmm.
And I'm still a barista. Like
Hmm.
and what I love about it too is that like I'm a barista and people don't know this other stuff I do, right? And they'll treat me like I'm less than them. Like people treat me like I'm worthless, And like I'm like, yeah, this is what most people are experiencing. Like I I need that. I need to know what that feeling is, because I I've been offered lots of money for coaching, and I could have been wealthier, and I've had giant opportunities that I turned down because I knew it would be a corruption of some principle.
Mm.
Um, and I'm poor, right? I'm like debt. I'm in debt, right? So,
Mm.
but this feeling of how people are treating me, it keeps me grounded. It's what helps me help the big leaders that I help. I can tell them shit they forgot, because they're in a bubble where they're surrounded by affluent, happy people that just tell them shit they want to hear. So they forget what it is to suffer and be treated like nothing. Like, and I never want to forget that. So being a barista offers me that feeling to some extent. And so I try to take that in, because a lot of baristas are like, come from middle class families, and they can't handle being treated like that. They're like, how dare them? And I'm like, that's how we get treated though. Like, and it's enough to survive. It's
Mm.
just enough to survive. And I don't know, right now, a lot of big things are happening. I'm meeting very famous people. They're taking me out to lunch, taking me backstage. Stuff like that's happening suddenly. But I didn't compromise, luckily. I could have compromised, but I didn't. And maybe I'm finally getting there. I'm 42. Maybe so like, I hear younger kids like, oh, I'm like, I'm 42. I'm still fucking nothing, but I have so much hope, and yeah, and things are looking up right now. But in a way where it's very, I dissociate sometimes, because it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel real sometimes. I'm like, how the like people I admire from for years are like, I don't know, it doesn't feel real. And they're like talking to me like I'm the celebrity. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now? I'm dead. And yeah, I think I have this delusion that I might be an 85-year-old man dying on my deathbed right now. And I've had this miraculous opportunity to witness my life flashing before my eyes, but it's happening in real time.
Hmm.
And I'm actually dying right now on my deathbed. But since I've known this to be true, just miracle, synchronicities, like, and I'm never like completely fucked so far,
Mm.
But that could happen too. I'm also ready for that to happen. I don't want it to happen, but if it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think people are like, how do I have this, big apartment? How do I go eat out every day? How do I, like, I, are they talking about survival, or are they talking about thriving? Like, so these are different things, right?
Yeah.
But I think I'm on the cusp of thriving, I guess, but we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious about this for you. You talked about like being offered different, you know, financial opportunities that you said no to for, corruption in one way or another.
Hmm.
Some people would maybe say that like that might, you might have gotten some large money, but if you have more money, you can actually help more people, right? So like how I guess I'm curious like what was your thought process into saying no to those opportunities?
One opportunity was I had this web series I made, and it was like everything ever all at once. Okay. But I did like 15 years ago, and it's called The Cubby.
Hmm.
And this one young director was a little younger than me. She was interested in directing. I was like, oh, great. And when she was interested, this producer, everybody wants to be involved, right? And then all the main people on the team were like, you're better than everyone. You got to take this project with me, and we got to fuck these other kids, right? Almost everyone made this offer to me, except one person had the best offer. She's like, I'm signed at CAA. My agent knows about your project. You got to dump these kids. Let's go to Hollywood. And I was like, oh, I can't, because the young woman she believed in, and none of you would be here if it wasn't for her.
Yeah.
And this person looked at me like I was the most naive fucking idiot in the world. And I was ashamed.
Hmm.
And that could have changed my life, right? And there was another opportunity a few years ago where I was at a party with all these improv comics, like working improv comics. And this producer guy, he thought I said something, and he got really angry at me. So, you know what you said? I was like, I don't know. I was like, honestly, I don't know what you think I said or what I said, but I'm so sorry if I offended you. And he
Hmm.
was like, are you drunk? I'm like, no. He's like, oh, I'm really drunk right now, I think. maybe I misheard you. I'm like, okay. So what do you do? You know, and I started pitching in projects. He's like, what if I told you I could make all those shows happen right now? I'm like, I said, honestly, that would not surprise me if you said that to me right now. And he's like, Mom, man, he got all excited, you know? And then he's like, and he tells the host of the party, he's like, all right, yo, send her your scripts. Okay, you're gonna get his scripts, give them to me. And and I was like, holy shit, you're just talking to the host of the party who's not your assistant, like she's your assistant. And it's like, what? And he's
Yeah.
like shaking my hand. We will meet again. And generally, when people shake my hand really hard and they
Yeah.
say we're gonna meet again, I know I'm never gonna see them again, right? But but the way he treated her was like, nah, I can get all these shows made right now. That's unacceptable though. The way he treated her. Or I had a multi-million-dollar project going on with this production company, and it was like we were getting in pre-production, and there was a holiday party, and then the VP of the company hugged one of my team members, and he was like, "Oh, that hug's not good enough," so he tried to hug her again and again. I didn't know about this. I found out afterwards, and she told me, and this was before Me Too. This was 1 year before Me Too.
Mm.
She told me what happened. I was like, "Oh, I think we're gonna have to shut everything down," and she's like, "No, that's crazy." I was like, no, this feels like a test. I feel like if I say okay to this, like this will escalate, and I don't know how safe everyone's gonna be. But I need everyone to know that if they work with me, they're gonna be safe, you know. And I'm like, I know this is right, you know. And then she just started crying, bawling, because she did not expect me to say that. And colleagues and friends of mine just thought, wow, you're so stupid. Why'd you do that? You're an idiot. And then Me Too happens. No one's telling me I'm stupid anymore, you know. Like these there was like the moment involved some sort of corruption, you know, and I
Mm.
knew it. I knew this was a test. I knew I could take the step, but I'm okay not. And also I have the privilege of having a cousin who's like a very rich cousin, self-made. He's a famous rich person. Oh shit, I shouldn't. Well, he's not as I know he's not as happy as I know wealth, it does not equate to happiness, right? And I know wealth can be a curse. And I know lots of millionaires that are like so depressed that I'm not under any illusion that this is the one shot. This
Mm.
because I get once in a lifetime opportunities every other year, you know, and I know it's like a lot of times the test, but when it feels right, I'm like, all right, let's fucking do it.
Mm. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, I actually don't even know. Do you go by the name Dank now that I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
okay?
It's
Cool.
Dank. Dank is short for Dan Kim. Okay.
Okay.
Dan K, right? Because otherwise I have to be Daniel Kim number 17 on IMDb, right? But I'm not playing Daniel Kim 17. I'm the one Dank, and I met the number one Dank, Daniel Kim, Daniel Day Kim. I met him. He's a nice guy. He's a little shorter than me, but you know, and I didn't kill him, you know, because I didn't, you know, because I thought about it to get him off the. But then I was like, I just go with Dank, and then you know, I don't have to worry about him anymore.
Yeah. Fair. Well, Dank, this has been a really lovely, yeah, an interview and conversation for me. I'm curious. One question I always ask my guests at the end of the show is just, what's a question that you would have for the audience that might shift their perspective or have them think about something in a different way?
Are you actually sacrificing? Are you actually sacrificing anything for the things you believe in? Like really, truly? Or are you just getting social currency from, you know, just echoing into an echo chamber, right? Are you actually sacrificing? Because sacrifice is necessary for activism. So, like, I don't want you to pretend to be an activist unless you're sacrificing something. It's like that. Yeah. Are you sacrificing something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, Dank, this has been a pleasure. Anywhere else you want to send people before we sign off?
No, I mean, just, I guess my Instagram, you know, and my TikTok, it's all Dharma Dank Show. And there's a link tree where there's a link to buy the book, but also a link for a free PDF of the book. No strings, no email signups, nothing. It's like literally totally free because there should be no gatekeeping of sacred knowledge or whatever. And there's a merch store too. You can get merch, but you know, everything's the price of a thing. Like a shirt for the price of a shirt, book for the price of a book. No like $1,000, $5,000 something nonsense. I don't know. And support if you can. If you can't, that's fine. It's free. I want everyone to read it, regardless of what you do or do not have. And check out the channel because I try to make shit extremely accessible, demystify things, and I think I'm good at it. I binge my own channel.
No, that's a good,
I actually binge
good
my own.
sign.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a good sign. All right, Dank, this is a pleasure, and yeah, we'll have to talk again soon.
yeah, yeah. Thanks. It was
Thank you.
great.
Pleasure.
Bye, everyone.